way back when at the beginning of the course when we were talking about how do you measure how do you measure length, and the standard unit is meters. How do you measure mass, and the standard unit is kilograms. How do you measure volume, and the standard unit is I think cubic meter. Now, how do you measure amount, and the standard unit actually is a mole. So a mole is a way to count in chemistry very small things. Atoms are very small. I hope you kind of get the sense of that. So a mole actually is going to be a very big number in order for this all to work for us. So we need to be able to go back to some sort of standard. And the standard for a mole is if you were to have one form of carbon, of course the symbol for carbon is C, one isotope of carbon is a mass number 12. If you were just to have carbon 12 atoms, and if you were to have a mass of 12 grams of carbon 12 atoms, then the number of atoms, if you were to count those atoms, okay, would be 1 mole of atoms. 1 mole of atoms with this mass. Okay? So that's kind of where it goes back to. As it turns out, a mole is a pretty big number. We've talked about packing up numbers in scientific notation. So a mole is packed up in scientific notation. The coefficient is 6.022, and the exponent part is 10 raised to the 23rd power. That's a pretty big number. Okay, so sometimes I go it like this. Let's see, 6022, move the decimal place over 23 places to the right. Okay, so here we go. This would be moving it 3 places. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, so there is the unpacked version of a mole. Now we've been talking a lot in here about uncertainty, and there is uncertainty as this number is packed up in scientific notation, 6.022 times 10 raised to the 23rd power. Actually, there is only, 4 sig figs in the way we're going to use a mole. Mole, actually, that number is sometimes referred to as Avogadro's number, 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. And while I'm thinking of it, although this course is taught in the spring this semester, mole day is 10/23. October 23 is mole day. So just keep that in mind, okay? Okay. Then I kind of giggled, I think, at the beginning of the semester that when we talk about abbreviations in science, we have to be consistent. So instead of writing out M-O-L-E, you get to write out M-O-L as the abbreviation for mole. Isn't that fun? Okay. So a mole is like a packet of counted particles. We said for carbon 12, if you have 12 grams, you have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd carbon atoms. You have 1 mole of carbon atoms. So it kind of likens to if you have a dozen eggs, how many eggs do you have? Well, you have 12. And you might not be as familiar with this, but a gross is 12 dozen. Okay, so a gross is 12 dozen, so a gross is what, 12 times 12. I'm not sure I would necessarily always know that. And 12 times 12 is 144, so 1 gross is 144 items. So now in chemistry or physical science, you need to get in the habit, if somebody says you've got a mole of anything, and we're going to kind of start out with some silly items here in a minute. Usually a mole applies to very small things like atoms and molecules. Then you have 6.022 times 10 raised to the 23rd of those items. Remember, that's a very, very big number.